At my lowest point dealing with chronic pain, I'd stopped surfing, stopped socialising, stopped doing the things that I enjoyed, and I started catastrophizing. Coming out the other side, what I learned was taking radical ownership of your physical and mental health. Before that point, I was relying on everyone to fix the problem. Having that self-awareness to take a step back and be able to reframe these thoughts and emotions and respond rather than react. So everything from your brain must be telling your body that you are alert, calm and focused, and that relates to your thoughts, your thinking and your emotions. What you hear from these people that are operating at the highest level is unrelenting self-belief.
You've worked with some of my sporting heroes, Isabel Adesanya, Team Emirates New Zealand, Carlos Olberg. Here's a challenge, Dave. If you had to bottle the essence of what makes an elite athlete great and hand that to a business owner to help them succeed, and you had to articulate it in less than a minute, how would you do it? I'd like to delve a little bit into the background of your story. And would you mind, have you got a 30 seconds? Hi, I'm Dave, here's what I do.
So I grew up at, a big part of my, I guess, story is like my upbringing. I grew up at Piha, free range kid, you know, had the bush, the beach, the ocean right on my doorstep. The challenge growing up was going in the ocean. The west coast of New Zealand is one of the craziest oceans in the world, the Tasman Sea. Yeah. And so naturally, growing up, had this connection with that energy, had this constant peer pressure, bullying from your mates to go out when the surf's bigger. I learned a lot growing up in that environment, but it was an environment where if you put your head up, you got pushed back down. There's lots of things in my upbringing that have rippled over into some of the things that hold me back now, some of the patterns of behaviour that I've developed growing up based on the culture and the upbringing that I was exposed to, right? And that's the same with all of us, but growing up, I kind of got to a point where, well, going through my teenage years, I couldn't understand anyone that had any type of mental health issue. Anxiety, depression, all that stuff was not on my... I was kind of just floating, you know, surfing, partying, just having a mean time. I obviously had my challenges. I was in the bottom class at Auckland Grammar. I was in L and it went down to M. It's a whole nother story. But yeah, I got to about the age of 19, 20, had some things happen that I didn't have the skills to deal with. So I just shoved it back, and my way of dealing with it was to run away. So I went overseas, and I stayed overseas for 10 years. I worked as a professional ocean lifeguard in England. I worked for Club Med for 2 years in Malaysia and Indonesia. Yeah, and you know, I bought a van in Europe and went down from England down to the bottom of Morocco twice, travelled all through Asia, all through Europe. And again, I was just...
A few South American stories in there.
Yeah, went right through South America twice. And all of my travelling was about challenge, because I grew up listening to my old man's stories about travelling. He travelled through the Middle East in a time where you just didn't do that. So as a young kid, I was listening to all these stories. I was lucky and fortunate enough to work with a guy called Neil, an absolute crazy bugger in Cornwall. And he said to me, he was like a nomadic traveller. This guy's been travelling his entire life, a bit older than me. And he said, here's one of the rules of travelling. He goes, you never stay in a backpackers. Wherever you go, you never stay in a I only stayed in the backpackers once, and that was in Rio de Janeiro, because I arrived there at like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Why do you never stay in a backpackers?
Well, why do you think?
I don't know. I stayed in a few backpackers, quite liked it.
Yeah. The whole idea was that you would go to these places, get outside your comfort zone and stay with family. So particularly in places like, not so much in New Zealand could you do that, but places abroad, Europe and South America and Asia, that's a thing, right? You go and you stay with families. And so for me, traveling was about getting away from, I guess, the tourist traps and putting myself out there and staying with families. And through that, I was able to, learn a lot more and get a deeper connection with the people and, you know, where you're staying. And but it was also like really uncomfortable. But yeah.
Bunch of travel, and then did you eventually come home?
Yeah, I came home when I was 29. All my mates were married, had mortgages and houses, and I was, you know, like, oh, should we go to the pub on a Tuesday? Because that's what I'd been doing, you know, like living in England, that's what you do. And so I kind of ended up in the space where I was a little bit lost, and because I didn't really have anything behind me apart from my practical experiences of traveling around the world. And then I was walking down to go for a surf one day, bumped into my mate Lloyd, and he was like, oh, I'm doing this paramedic degree. And I was like, oh, tell me about it. And he goes, oh, well, it's 3 years degree, and then you come out, you work on the road, 2 day shifts, 2 night shifts, and then you have 4 days off. So straight away, way my mind worked at the time was like, right, that's 4 days to surfing. I enrolled the next day.
Perfect.
And it's interesting because people say to me, you know, you're getting into paramedicine to help people.
Yeah.
I got into paramedicine to help myself,
Whoa.
to go surfing, to have like a lifestyle where I could keep doing the things that I enjoyed, not to help people. That was a byproduct.
Yeah, cool. Did it grow on you though? I'm going to make our tea while you keep talking. I'm listening.
I worked for 13 years. For the last 6 years, I worked as an intensive care paramedic, which is like taking the resus room from the hospital out into the pre-hospital environment. You have a very broad scope of practice. You only respond to high acuity work, so critically unwell patients. You either get there first in the Jeep, initiate care, or you back up an ambulance crew that have an unwell patient. So
we're talking people that are dying. They're on.
Yeah, a lot of these jobs are pre-hospital jobs, meaning if you don't initiate the right care, they don't get to hospital. These are things like severe anaphylaxis, severe asthma, cardiac arrest, trauma, car crashes, things like that.
Wow.
So, people have a very warped perspective of what they call them ambulance drivers, which don't ever call them ambulance drivers. Paramedics hate that because the job is actually so much more than that. Yeah, and you have to make clinical decisions under pressure about drug doses. What do we have to do on scene versus off scene? How to run very emotive scenes, you know, like a car crash or something like that. There's a lot going on. There's other emergency services. There's people. You're going to cardiac arrest, people that are, you know, in people's houses, and you're having to call the cardiac arrest and then go and talk to the family and say, hey, your loved one's passed away. So you're doing this stuff all of the time.
That sounds like 6 different jobs. That's not sick person Uber. That's,
Yeah, and so I left that job for a couple of reasons. One is I started to become very cynical about human beings, because you are going to people that have become unwell secondary to lifestyle disease because of poor whatever it might be, whether it's like, you know, poor decisions or you know, it's a problem with education or whatever it might be. It is self-inflicted misery.
Right.
And so I was seeing that every day. You know, people that were morbidly obese, you know, had multiple comorbidities, were in terrible condition. And I became frustrated at, because as a society now, you know, if you look at the average person in New Zealand, they're not well. That's the truth, and the statistics show that.
And the people that we look at as well, not well. Like that's like a relative scale, right?
Yeah, and so we all have this responsibility, you and myself included, because the kids that are coming up now, we have to be role models, right? So what do people look like when they're 40, 50, 60, 70-year-old? Are they high functioning, fit, healthy, mentally on point, or are they not? And by and large, people are not.
Well, you inspire me in that way. You're not, spring chicken, but you're out there surfing and running and hiking and just smashing it out.
Yeah, but the reality is I've got a lot of work to do. So, you know, physically and mentally, I have heaps of work to do. And that self-betterment or personal growth journey is a lifetime journey.
Right.
And like I said to you, the biggest challenge for me at the moment is running a business.
You've been traveling. You've worked as this surf lifesaver, intensive care paramedic. Where does the idea come to start your business?
The idea come from my own health journey. So I developed, I developed chronic pain as a result of 2 failed bilateral hip surgeries. So at about the age of 26, 27, I started developing like just muscle tightness in my hips, started restricting my ability to do the things that I enjoyed, running, surfing, kickboxing. And I ended up going to a hip specialist. They did the x-rays, found out that I had femoral acetibular impingement, progressive osteoarthritis, and I was told to stay out of the water for, I think it was 8 or 9 months. At about the 5-month mark, beautiful sunny day, grabbed my girlfriend's longboard, went out, caught a wave, my back foot came off the board, front foot stayed on the board. I did the splits, reopened the hip capsule, tore the anchors off, and from there developed chronic pain, which is the most, I said running a business is the most challenging thing. It is nothing on dealing with chronic pain. So I was still working in the ambulance, working night shifts, developed insomnia. I would be driving the ambulance with one foot pressed down to the ground to lift my bum off the seat because it was like I was sitting on glass. I became very introverted in that I stopped socializing. At my lowest point dealing with chronic pain, I'd stopped surfing, stopped socializing, stopped doing the things that I enjoyed, and I started catastrophizing. So I started thinking, because I was told I needed bilateral hip replacements, which at the age of 33 is a real difficult thing to get your head round. And so I started catastrophizing, what am I going to look like when I'm 60, 70?
Probably not so good.
Nah, and it got pretty gnarly up here. And yeah, at my lowest point, I got up one morning to go to the toilet, about 3 o'clock in the morning. And this is not over exaggerating, but to get out of bed, because everything would just get so tight and racked up, I would grab my legs, because everything, when I woke up in the night, it was almost like my hips were frozen. So to get moving, I'd literally grab my legs, pull them over to the side of the bed, stand up, and my back would be jammed up my hips, and I was walking to the toilet, got to the toilet, it was about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I sat down, I started crying. So I was sitting in the toilet. It was a real low point for me. I started having troubling thoughts around, like, how am I going to do this?
Like suicidal ideation.
Nah, never got to that point. I was just like, I can't do this anymore, but it wasn't, I never had that, it was just like, I just don't know what to do.
There's no light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
I'm in this dark cave. What do I do?
Yeah, it was just like, how is this happening? And anyway, I sat there, and at that point, I made a decision. Before that point, I was relying on everyone to fix the problem. At one point, I was spending about $300 to $400 a week on specialist care. I saw the muscular therapist for the All Blacks, acupuncturist for the New Zealand cricket team. I saw all of the best specialists in New Zealand. And I did that for 3 to 4 years. And I became desperate for someone to solve the problem. At that moment, sitting down in the toilet, I decided that I would fix the problem. And that, for me, started a deep dive into understanding what was going on in my hips. Wow. And what I started learning was that secondary to chronic pain, I had a breathing pattern dysfunction. I had constant tension I was holding in here. I used to go, once a fortnight, I would go to a lady who would release my jaw. Oh. Why? Because I was just clenching all the time. That resulted in tinnitus in my ears, so ringing in my ears. All of this stuff I started working out. And so
all interconnected.
It's all interconnected. So I started having gut issues, all sorts of stuff, and nervous system dysregulation, because I was spending all my time in that sympathetic dominant state, just preparing for battle.
Wow. Can I just go back really quickly? Yeah. That night on the toilet, that was like a dark night of the soul. Was that a moment? Was that a black and white, I'm going to solve this for myself? I'm going to do something about this?
Yep.
You went in one way, you came out different.
100%.
I just want to dig a little bit deeper into that, because I think those moments are different. I've had 2 of those in my life, and there's a lot of people I know that I wish they'd get to it sooner. Is there a way to get to that sooner? Do you have to be forced there by pain? How do people make that shift sooner? Is there a way?
For a lot of people, you got to hit rock bottom. It's that whole thing of if you relate it to, like, I don't know, an alcoholic, and they keep almost hitting rock bottom, then someone picks them up and that helps them out and gives them money or whatever it might be. Well, they never really hit rock bottom. For me, I feel like I hit rock bottom in terms of what I could take physically and mentally as a result of 3 to 4 years of chronic pain. And I think it takes, I talk about coming out the other side. What I learned was taking radical ownership of your physical and mental health. And what that means for me, what radical ownership means for me, is doing the strength training every day, doing the mobility work every day, doing the meditation, doing the breath work, setting my sleep up, making sure I'm not drinking too much, making sure I'm eating healthy food, making sure I have healthy relationships, making sure I have a healthy relationship with this thing. I didn't have the awareness, awareness that I have now in terms of a better relationship with my mind, my thoughts, my thinking, and my emotions. I didn't have the skills to regulate the thoughts and the emotions that I was having. I just let them run riot, and I was constantly reacting. So the thought would come in, I'd just react. The emotion would come in, I'd react. I know now through the work that I've done in my own health journey that you do not have to react to all the thoughts and the emotions. In fact, you don't want to be reacting to every feeling you have. You want to be able to step back and observe it. I know this is like what we talk about with meditation and mindfulness, but that is a real skill, having that self-awareness to take a step back and be able to reframe these thoughts and emotions and respond rather than react. So part of my whole health journey was actually learning that stuff. Wasn't taught to me at school, wasn't taught to me at university. Not once, 4 years at university, not once did they talk about how to regulate your physical and mental state under pressure. And so part of that job, I got to a point where I had a couple of jobs that went wrong. Ambulance service is a small place, people talk, that really affected my confidence. I started going into jobs and being overwhelmed by stress and pressure and getting tunnel vision. And in that job, having tunnel vision is very dangerous because you have to have good situational awareness of what is going on around you. Because they're often, you can imagine going into a
high octane situation, a lot of people.
2-3 o'clock in the morning, surrounded by,
all sorts.
Yeah. If you don't have good situational awareness of what's going on. So I sort of realized, it was a real aha moment for me because I was like, man, I actually need to, I would start noticing I'd be going to jobs, and you would know when you were going to a job that was, you would know just by reading the notes when you were going to a job that was full on.
It's going to be a biggie.
And so what I started noticing was my hands would get clammy, I could feel my heart rate going, and ultimately the compounding stress that I was feeling would come out on these jobs as tunnel vision. And so I got to a point where it was like, I actually need to figure this stuff out. And that started a deep dive into learning how to regulate my physical and mental state, which is what I do now.
Cool. And so you thought, so it was your own journey. I'm going to do this for myself.
Yeah.
Did you have a first client? How did it become a business? You went, what? All this Western medicine, all these things they want. Did you ever get the surgeries, the hips? What happened? Can you wrap that up?
I was told 8 years ago to have full bilateral hip replacements.
Yep.
The one guy who I wanted to do the hip replacement, he was a bit of a guru. He'd done the most in New Zealand.
Yep.
He said to me, I'm not going to do it. And I pleaded him to do it. He said, you won't be happy with the outcome. Every other surgeon, and I went to 4 different ones. Every other one said, we can book you in straight away. So I want to go back to this guy and just thank him because that was 8 years ago. I train every day. I surf every second day. I'm more active now than what I was 10 years ago. And the biggest thing in terms of getting out of chronic pain, because I still have osteoarthritis in my hips, I still get pain flares, but the biggest shift I made was a psychological shift. So people would start coming up to me all the time and saying, how are your hips? And I'd be like, oh, my hips, and I'd talk about it. The biggest shift I made when someone come up and asked me about my hips are fine. No problem there. So people stopped asking and I stopped talking about it and I stopped catastrophizing. I started putting things in place that would give me direction in terms of what I need to work on to build strength, not just in my hips, but here.
Wow. And so you did that for yourself, and there was a point where you went, other people need this. This isn't in the market. Why did no one do this for me? I need to help people.
So at the same time as working on the ambulance, I got deep into working out how I had adapted to chronic pain. Yeah. And one of the adaptations that I had made to chronic pain was muscle imbalance. So I was working all this stuff out, and then I started realizing, holy cow, we have adapted to these specializations, whether it be sitting in a seat for 8 hours a day. You will adapt to that, whether it be a painter, whether it be all of the, because we're not designed to be as specialized as what we are. And so this specialization that we have now has created a lot of muscle imbalance, and that's what I became really interested in. So I transitioned that knowledge that I learned around figuring out my own muscle imbalance into working with clients who had muscle imbalance, which is everybody. So I started seeing clients just on my days off on the ambulance, and I started a company called Woody's Movement Workshop. My surname is Woody, Movement Workshop. And I started, just saw a few people. You know what, the cool thing about New Zealand is word of mouth is like the best form of marketing. And so that guy would tell that guy, then built out a client base. I would come off my night shift. I would sleep until 10 o'clock and I'd see my first client. At one point I was doing 2 jobs basically. And then I was like, right, I've got enough client base to go part-time in the ambulance. Eventually that business got bigger and I stopped working in the ambulance, went full-time into Woody's Movement Workshop. I then got a couple of athletes that I started working with, a couple of corporate, CEOs, leaders, business owners, and I started sort of realizing, man, all of these guys breathe, all of these people's breathing is off. They're all stressed. They're all
Elite athletes weren't breathing right.
They weren't breathing right. And so I started relating this back to what I had been through and my own breathing dysfunction secondary to stress and secondary to what I was going through. And what I was seeing in my clients is this complacent adaptation where we are adapting complacently to what is going on around us. And then I started looking into the teams and the athletes. Okay, what are they doing? Well, I tell you what, the meditation is not part of the system. Neither is the breath work. The sleep stuff, all of the stuff that I'd worked out for myself going through this process of getting myself out of chronic pain.
Wow. You've worked with some of my sporting heroes, Isabel Adesanya, Team Emirates New Zealand, Carlos Olberg. Did you ever have any pinch me moments where you went, oh my gosh, what's going on here?
I had one where I will never forget this one. But I was crawling along the bottom of the pool. So we do this pool recovery training, which is basically like underwater meditation. You're crawling along underneath the water. There was 3 of the fighters that were in fight camp, and Izzy was in front of me, and I was crawling behind him. And I would get like really close to his foot, and then so his foot would be like that far away from my goggles as I was crawling behind him. And I just had this moment where I was just like, this is just bizarre. Like so, totally bizarre that, and this was when he was preparing in the fight camp for what's the big Brazilian dude?
Pereira,
yeah. In the second, was it the third, the time that he knocked him out, and so not only was I getting to experience that evolution of someone who, I mean, just that whole story just blows my mind.
Yeah.
The stress and pressure of having to go in there a third time after being, knocked out, and but what I saw in that camp was just don't even know how to explain it. It was just someone that was coming in with 100% focus and attention on what they're doing. And it's very rare to see that level of performance where you are just 100% dialed in. And I saw that through a 12-week fight camp.
A fully committed spirit, fully committed soul, mind, body, just every millisecond is directed at a goal.
So everything from your brain must be telling your body that you are alert, calm, and focused. And that relates to your thoughts, your thinking, and your emotions. And what you hear from these people that are operating at the highest level is unrelenting self-belief. So you've lost twice. I am going to go in there and I'm going to win. And when you hear that, there is no wavering in the voice. It is 100% commitment. Now, the reality is that you can go in there a third time and lose. So most people in those situations will hold themselves back because of the fear of failure, right? And it doesn't matter who you are, there are going to be hundreds of negative thoughts coming. Oh, maybe you're not ready. What happens if it happens again, right? So it's the ability to deal with that psychological stress that is so, that for me is so fascinating, because you have to have a deep level of understanding of yourself to be able to regulate that level of psychological stress.
Yeah, wow.
And he was able to do it.
Here's a challenge, Dave. If you had to bottle the essence of what makes an elite athlete great and allows them to succeed, and hand that to a business owner to help them succeed, and you had to articulate it in less than a minute?
The first and most important thing is unrelenting self-belief. You have to really back yourself, despite the fear of failure, the fear of whatever might be, the self-doubt. You have to have that unrelenting self-belief and prop yourself up. Don't wait for anyone else to do it. You have to have something that's driving you. So normally it's that chip on your shoulder, something that for me, it was being in the bottom class at grammar, told I was dumb. That was the thing that's now pushing me. So that chip on the shoulder, the vision. You have to have a very clear destination that keeps you heading in the right direction. When you have that, when you come to a barrier, you either go around it or push through it. And you have to be present and focused on what you're doing.
A 4-step formula for inevitable success.
Yes, I would just say one more thing to that. The best performers in the world know how to get the balance right between stress and recovery.
Okay.
They prioritize that recovery piece above everything else.
And that's a great jumping off point. The ability to switch between recovery and being on is nervous system dexterity. Could you take us through that?
Yeah, so the autonomic nervous system, you have two branches, sympathetic, parasympathetic. The All Blacks called this being in the red, they called this being in the blue. Cool. High energy stress state, cool. Recovery.
Cool.
You can think of it as red brain, blue brain.
Cool.
And the biggest problem we are facing nowadays is that we are spending too much time in the red, the sympathetic division of your nervous system. Now, the problem with that is a high energy state. So your body is breaking things down to create energy so that you can meet threat, challenge, and demand. Back in the day, the sympathetic was for battle, to go hunting. Of course, they had stress back in the day, but nowadays, it's easy to get stuck in the red because of the constant activation of acute stress. So the red is your stress response. The sympathetic is your stress response. So that is the chemical load of food, the psychosocial stress, physical stress, mental stress, the deadlines, the getting to the end of the day and having to go back to the family and making that thing work, the mortgage, it's coming at us from so many different directions. But here's the thing, the stress is not the problem. The stress is the stimulus for growth, right? Everything that you've achieved in your business is because you've been willing to meet threat, challenge, and demand. You've been in the red, getting stuff done. The problem is the lack of disciplined, intermittent recovery, shifting back into the blue as a key performance strategy. Now, this is something that we can learn from the great athletes and the great business leaders. We are sold a lie, and the lie is just keep pushing, grind. That's that equating busyness with productivity.
Hustle culture.
Yeah. Do you know what happens to those people?
They burn out.
It either affects their physical and mental health, it either affects their close relationships, or it affects their business.
I feel personally attacked. I've got the trifecta.
Yeah, well, the best performers in the world know how to get the balance right between stress and recovery. They understand that shifting back into a recovery state is absolute key in terms of sustainable peak performance. Doing whatever you're doing now for the next 5, 10, 15 years without it affecting you, your close relationships, and the business.
I think I got addicted as an e-commerce business owner to living on stress and anxiety. There was so much pressure. I didn't have any direction. There was no clarity. There's all this information that the only way I could get anything done was get into the red zone. And so I'd end up focused on busy micro tasks rather than a structured approach to high value tasks. For example, making ad creative. And these days, where I have methodical intermittent recovery, which is amazing, love that, I'm able to get into the zone, I think go into red, but it's clear and it's concise and it's structured, and then I'm actually making the content, I'm doing the pod.
You're talking about two separate things. You're talking about controlled stress versus uncontrolled stress. So
can you explain that to us? Because I think every business owner, most business owners are in uncontrolled stress and it's costing them money.
Yes.
How do they fix that?
The first thing is to understand what is stress. What is stress? Stress is your body's natural reaction to threat, challenge, and demand. It starts in your amygdala. Amygdala detects a threat, a deadline, whatever it might be in business. It might be a confrontation or whatever. Yeah. The amygdala sends signal to the adrenal glands. Adrenal glands release adrenaline. Adrenaline increases your heart rate, increases your blood pressure, increases your breathing to prepare you to meet threat, challenge, and demand. Now, if you think about your average business owner, that's where they spend the majority of their day. Do not think of high-level stress. Just think of the busyness of your day, and don't think of stress as something that feels uncomfortable. We are addicted to stress. I want you to think about when you find a void in your day, a quiet place, do you just sit there, or do you search for more stimulus?
I feel it.
Yeah, so we grab the phone and we go like this.
Oof.
Why? Because we are addicted to stimulus. We're addicted to stress.
And the stuff flowing out of that phone is algorithmically engineered to hide in us. It's fear and distrust and politicized stuff and sex and drugs and money. It's all rich and intense, right?
It's also training a pattern of multitasking. So the brain just recognizes patterns. If the pattern is we are multitasking right through our day, and then we pick up the phone and we're multitasking. So the brain starts becoming addicted to multitasking. then what is our genius zone? Our genius zone is our ability to focus, to be present, to be able to grab our attention and be like, right, I need to focus on this for the next hour.
Nail it.
Now, what you're talking about is you have brought a level of controlled stress in your day where you can be more task focused.
Yes.
Right, I need to get this done. Now I need to work on this project. Where you will become dysregulated and fall from anxiety to depression is where you are trying to go like this, but you can't center your focus.
And then
on
I hate
anything.
myself at the end of the day because I felt like I got nothing done.
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't do the one bloody thing.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, and that's why like being focused and being task focused and getting one thing done and then moving on, you are also getting that dopamine hit. I've achieved that. You know, when you have a list of things to do and you get to the end of the day and you've ticked off, doesn't matter how busy you were in your day, you feel good. You have that deep feeling of, right, we're good. But the opposite of that, where you're sort of just going like this and you feel terrible.
Can I position this to you? I've got two questions. I want to follow up questions on this. I'd heard somewhere, I think I saw it in a reel or something, this person said, burnout has nothing to do with the amount of exertion. It's how hard you're working over time with no reward. If you're being continuously rewarded, you won't arrive to burnout. Do you believe in that, or do you think you can get to burnout? It's like sustained effort over time without reward.
Yeah,
was his definition of burnout.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I do to a degree.
Okay.
But without recovery, without adequate recovery, it doesn't matter how much you're enjoying the stress, the busyness of your day, it will catch up with you. It's like water in a cup, right? It's called allostatic load, the wear and tear in your body, secondary to chronic stress.
Okay.
So the water starts filling up, then you come to a big life event, right? But you don't have any reserves, so the water spills over the top, and that's where you start feeling the effects of chronic stress. The hallmark of chronic stress is where it impacts your sleep. You can't get to sleep, or you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and your mind starts. Gotcha. You carry the dysregulation in your nervous system over into your sleep.
What's a super actionable step a business owner can take to bring some methodical recovery into their life?
Exercise.
Yes, sir.
So exercise is interesting because it is stress. But after you exercise, so exercise is stimulating the sympathetic part of your nervous system, your body's stress response. So you'll get a heightened stress response because you need energy so that you can, you can work, you can do exercise. But afterwards, you get what we call the rebound effect, where the parasympathetic nervous system comes back online, and that's that euphoric, calming feeling you get after exercise. And so there's two things that people need. They need stress to shift into a calm state in the form of exercise, ice baths, challenge, going for a hike up through the bush, sauna. These are all
horrifically stressful things.
Yeah, but they're example of controlled stress situations where you will afterwards feel that rebound effect. You will feel calm, you'll be more productive, you'll have more energy.
You're in it, you've chosen it.
Yes.
It's intentional, and there's something about blowing the cobwebs out.
That's it. And so the opposite of that is being able to shift from whatever physical and mental state you're in. You've just done 2 hours of high intensity work in your job where you've had to be really cognitively focused, multitasking. The real skill is then being able to shift into a calm state. That is much more difficult than going from here to stress to get calm, controlled stress to get calm, and you need both. And so what are some key things that we can do in our day to shift? Because I never go through my day going, oh, I need to get rid of this stress and this stress. I go through my day going, man, I've pushed hard for 3 hours, I need to shift back into a recovery state. The fastest known way to do that is through controlled breathing. So I have these 5-minute breathing flow, 10-minute breathing flow, 15-minute breathing flow. Yep. Then I start layering this stuff. Okay, what's another powerful form of active recovery? Well, being in nature is, if we look at the science and the research, being in nature is one of the most profound ways to activate the parasympathetic part of your nervous system, because you're using your peripheral vision, you're listening to the sounds of nature, wide open space. We're designed to be in nature, take your shoes off, get grounded. Now, I have a client that works in the bottom of the city, Auckland City, and he said to me, man, it's all good for you, live out at Piha. You know, you could go into the bush. And I said, hey man, you're not in the creative part of your brain. The water is 500 meters away. We are surrounded by nature. So now on his lunch break, he just walks down, goes to the end of the pier, does a 5-minute breathing flow, 10 minutes of being in nature. Now, people listening might just think, oh, yeah, okay, The profound effects that has over time in terms of balancing your nervous system is the key to sustainable peak performance. They are very simple things that you can integrate into your day.
Mate, I would just love to second that. I'm a living example of this. I see this in my work and my career. People want a shiny object. They want a fancy thing. It's part of the culture today. They see the fancy reel. Simple but not easy. Simple but not easy. Consistently deployed, elegant, simple tactics and strategies over a period of time with engagement and belief is how you build a $100 million brand. It's how you build the type of life, the mind, body, and soul connection that you want to exist in. It's how you achieve daily contentment and spiritual fulfillment. It's not fancy, it's simple, deployed consistently over time. That's not easy, and that's where people get the mistake. Complex, it's hard to do simple stuff. The best design in the world. What's the best brand in the world? Apple. What's the packaging of Apple? Simple. It's hard to do simple things consistently and stay in that. So I'd just like to back you up from the bottom of my soul on that one.
The complexity is in the simplicity, and
it's hard to make things simple. It's complex to make things simple, which is the trap.
It's the trap. That is the trap. If you even just think about your life, one of the things that I strive for in life is to simplify my life. Yes. So it's less things. Yes. The more things you have, the more problems. It's like, how do you declutter and simplify this? For a long time, I could not get in a routine of doing strength training. I'd go for 2-3 months and then I'd fall off. And I did that for 10 years. What I've done now, it took my mate who's a strength trainer saying this to me. He said, do 20 minutes a day. Pick 3 to 4 exercises and do them really well. I train every single day for 20 to 30 minutes, no longer. I'm talking about strength training. I mean, I'm in the bush, I'm in the ocean. And I have been able to maintain consistency, but it took me simplifying that process. Now here's the second thing is it has to be in your calendar. If it's not in your calendar, it doesn't happen.
It's got a restriction.
And you have to believe in it. If you say the 5-minute break, with my clients, every client gets a breathing flow that they have to do every day. But if you're just going through the action, so you lie down, you put the thing on and you're just like, oh, right, I've got to tick a box. It does not work. The effect of anything is a combination of what you're doing plus what you think about what you're doing.
So how does a business owner bring elite athlete performance and productivity into their life? You work with people one-on-one workshops, but that's all in New Zealand. Is there any way someone can connect with you online?
First of all, it doesn't need to be elite.
Right.
I think that's the thing that we need to, nothing needs to be perfect. It never will. What we need is, we go back to this idea of simplicity. I think the key thing that we can learn from athletes and transition over into business is, first of all, athletes constantly receive feedback. How much feedback are we giving the team? A team member may only get one bit of feedback in 3-4 weeks. Hey, you're doing a great job. So I think feedback's really important. I think we can learn that from what's happening in the athlete world. And then the second thing is the recovery part. If you look at an athlete's week, they will integrate active recovery habits and rituals into their day, right? Because they understand that you're only as good as your recovery is. If you overtrain, it's going to affect your sleep. It's going to predispose you to injury. It's going to, it's going to have profound effects on your energy and performance.
Yeah.
Now that is totally applicable into what someone is doing in a business, whether they're a CEO, a leader. You have to treat yourself like an athlete, a corporate athlete, because what you're demanding of yourself physically and mentally is huge. Athletes have off seasons.
Yes, we know.
An athlete might have a career of 10, 15 years if they're lucky. The career of a CEO, leader, business owner, 40 years plus.
Yeah.
The ones that are successful are the ones that get this balance right between, I keep coming back to the stress and recovery. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's just, if you are sitting in front of a computer for 8 hours a day, you better be training for that. You better be physically and mentally strong. I mean, you better be going to the gym, you better be doing mobility work, because the imbalance will catch up with you.
Right.
And I think it's just basic stuff. Like what should we all be doing? We should be eating healthy food. We should be out in nature. We should be exercising. We should be prioritizing our sleep. Basic pillars of health.
Yeah.
Social connections, huge. So those 5 things are the pillars of health. First of all, you get all of those things above a 7 out of 10. Sustainable peak performance is not being a 10 out of 10 across the board. It's above a 7 out of 10 across those pillars of health. Once you get that base right, those pillars of health
It's the synergy, because 7 times 7 times 7 times 7 times 7 is a much bigger number than 10 times 10 times 10 times 1 times 0.
Yeah.
Like, if you got a 0 in there, actually you wipe the whole equation out. But that's interesting. I really love that, Dave. I think business owners, e-commerce brand owners know a thing or two about that, because we're used to going, we need to increase average order value, conversion rate, cost of traffic, and decrease cost of traffic. And we're better off having uplift across the 3 in equal form rather than one brilliant one and one that sucks. It destroys the whole system. So that's I love that. It's like metrics for a life well lived.
Yep. This is the thing that has to get you through the hard times. So when you go through the hard times, and this may sound cynical, but you've been through hard times. You've been through stress and pressure.
Been through some hard
There
times.
is more ahead. So we get through that thing and we go, out of the woods. No, there is more ahead.
Yeah.
And this is the vehicle that has to get you through. And where people get lost is when they hit one of those roadblocks. They look back at this thing to get them through, but they haven't invested in it physically and mentally. And so the body isn't in the right condition. And that's where people really get lost. And we sacrifice, especially in business, we sacrifice our own physical and mental health for what?
Mate, for what, right? Can I tell you a little story there? One of my clients, Vivian, she's Chinese, and her grandfather told her a story, and he explained to her, you can accumulate as much wealth as you want, $1 million, 6 zeros, $10 million, 7 zeros, $100 million, 8 zeros, $1 billion, 9 zeros. You keep going. Your health is the one. And if you take the health away, what do you got? 0. So it doesn't matter how big that, and we as e-commerce business owners especially, and all business owners, I think we get wrapped up in the P&L. I think we get wrapped up in the cash flow. It all becomes numerical. It's all about how many zeros are in there. But your health, not only is it critical to enjoy any of those zeros, but it's actually the amplifier. And I've had so many experiences of this in my personal life. Do you mind if we change gears slightly? I'm an e-commerce business owner. I know I'm not putting the energy I need to daily into making ads. That's what's going to move the needle for my business. 60 seconds. What do you change about me? What do I do?
Yeah, the first thing is actually breaking it down. Like often things that you're avoiding are because you've built them up into this massive thing, or they are quite a big thing, and you're looking at the big chunk, right? What is the first thing I need to do? Well, I need to write the first paragraph script, right? I need to set up the thing. So you break it down into chunk-sized pieces. That reduces stress load. Going back to that thing we talked about, probably the reason you're avoiding it is a lack of confidence. It's the courage to put yourself there. You may not be good at it the first time, second time, third time. It may take 20, 30 times, but you're never going to achieve confidence until you keep going back. You will eventually create competence, and part of that is actually doing a bit of work, like preparing. Preparation is key, right? Like if you're not good at something, go and learn about it. Prepare, do a course, whatever it might be.
I think I'm a bit afraid of judgment. I'm afraid of what people are going to say to me when I put the content out there.
Yeah.
How do I combat that?
You do it. You take action.
And the way that I get myself to take action is through the breaking it down. I'm going to break it down into smaller chunks so I know exactly what's happening. Is there anything else? Accountability?
Yeah, I think
how do I take action? How do I take action? Because I have this conversation with e-commerce brand owners often. The thing that's holding them back is they're not making their ad creative. Yes, I know it's emotionally challenging. I know it's cognitively draining. I know you're not that great at it. I know there's the fear of judgment. But if you keep avoiding the ad creative and pretending to yourself that you're doing good work over here, your business will not move forward.
Yeah. It's as simple as, we could go down lots of rabbit holes here, but it's as simple as doing the thing.
Yes.
So for me, taking action is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move, do it. Don't sit up. Often what's holding us back is not the obstacle. It's not the thing. The obstacle is up here. You know, for myself, there's certain things in the business that I really struggle to do, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I procrastinate around stuff, and that amplifies things. And then I definitely get stuck in my head, especially around like the creating the ads or whatever. For whatever reason, I'm not good at it. I won't get good at it until I keep going back and doing it. And what I've liked about this process is I'll film it, I'll send it to you, you'll tell me it's shit house, and I'll go again. But what I like is you're upfront about it. Yeah. You know, you're not. I don't want to be tinkering around. I want the honest truth. So the Loom videos you send back to me, hey man, this is dog crap.
But also, it's not just the slap, it's the specific actionable advice. Here's what to do different. Here's what you could say instead.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of coaches out there that goes, that's not good, try more ads, but they're not giving you specific advice to go, oh, I know my next step.
Yeah. And so, through that, exactly, and through that process, I will get there. I know I will get there. Yeah. I'm not there yet. I need more support. I need more structure. I need to put myself there. I am still holding myself back. I am consciously aware of it, yet I still do it.
Yes.
And that is because I'm not good at it. Yes. Well, I can keep not being good at it, or I can keep trying.
Yeah.
And I think that's just, you're not going to be good at everything in business at the end of the day, right? Like,
I think it's so important for people to hear this from you because you're so powerful, Dave. You have a lot of mana. When you're in your flow and you're articulating, it's amazing. You're mesmerizing. You get up in front of 400 people, elite athletes, the greatest of the great, and you're holding space and you're being so direct. And it's been interesting working with you to see you in your state when you're being the business owner and you're like, over a couple of years, all these ads are hard, right? And I think it's helpful for people to see that because they're like, oh, that's like me. And even he gets like that. It's almost like every coach needs a coach or something. How is it that you, the guy that coaches me, elite CEOs and elite athletes and all these people, are facing the same problem?
Yeah, because we're all human. We all have the same problems. We all experience self-doubt. We all get in our heads. We all have limiting self-beliefs. We all have a lack of confidence in some area. It's just normal. I understand, through this whole process, I can beat myself up about it, and I have. But the reality is, it's normal. You're not going to be good at everything. But I need to change the language around this. The language I'm telling myself is, I am no good at filming ads. The language I need to be telling myself is, I'm not that good now, but I'm going to get much better. Now, because I've been telling myself I'm no good at it, my brain's job is to confirm that everywhere I look. So I'll go into film and my brain will be going, hey man, this is going to be difficult, or you're no good at this. Why? I'm having these self-limiting thoughts. I'm tying a lot of emotion to it. That gets stored in a part of my brain called the reticular activating system.
Okay.
Now that part of your brain, its job, based on that thought and belief, is to find evidence of that everywhere. Why? Survival. We wouldn't be here now if we didn't have that part of our brain.
We evolved over millions of years for that deep part of the brain to confirm the danger is where we think it is.
Exactly.
Wow.
So if I have, let's just say I have a thought, and this is where people really get tripped up. I'm no good. They're better than me. I'm not ready. And you keep repeating that thought, you will not be, your reality, you're going out there and your reality, you are seeing reality through the lens of those thoughts and beliefs, which is wild if you think about it. So what ends up happening is you are now on an algorithm that is dictating how you see the world. And that's why, like an algorithm on the phone, and you looked at that thing and now you're starting to get all the confirmation, the ad or whatever it might be. Well, that's the same as how this thing works. So that they've tapped into exactly how this thing works.
Wow.
But we can use that in such a productive way,
Greatest strength, greatest weakness.
Yep.
If we flip that, I got a one for you. I'm not good at ads. I'm the best at making ads I've ever been.
Well,
which is always,
it's true.
I'm the best. Today, I'm the best at making ads I've ever been.
Yeah, you just, with that stuff around reframing and self-talk, I don't like to use positive self-talk. It's constructive self-talk because you have to be honest with yourself. So I can't.
Because otherwise it's a fantasy?
Well, otherwise you're just trying to trick yourself.
Interesting.
And so constructive self-talk is, I'm not ready, versus, man, it's true, I'm not ready, but I can do this. I can go in there and I can do it. If I back myself, if I get a little bit of, that's constructive self-talk.
I'm not ready, I can do this. I'm getting better at making ads.
Exactly.
I'm getting better. Yeah, I'm not the best at it's a bit more what it's a bit out there and the brain's going, whatever, bro.
Well, that's just feeding into the ego, and it's also it's not being real with yourself. You have to be true with yourself, right?
Cool, authentic. That goes back, and this is, I'm listening to this and I'm mapping it onto the 4-stage system that elite athletes use to win. I got 2 more questions and we're going to wrap up. What's been the most valuable AI tool you've used in your business? What's the way that you've used AI in the best way? Have you?
Not at all. I tell you what, man.
Come on.
For 14 years, I worked in the ambulance. I came out of that, and in the ambulance, you were writing everything out, MDTs, and technology went right over my head. This is the most challenging thing I have found running a business is like the tech. I mean, I use the thing that I find most beneficial is just ChatGPT, but I'm probably using it in the worst, most.
Hey, language, mindset.
Yeah.
Hey, see all of that?
Yeah.
Isn't that actually? But I know for a fact, because I showed you that ChatGPT stuff, and you may think I'm using it the most basic and the da-da-da. Some of the things you're doing are really valuable. I'd just love you to, how is ChatGPT helping you in your business?
It sped things up dramatically. You know, like even for just building out, like if I take an example, like building out a course framework stuff. The most difficult part about building a course is course framework and how to make it all gel together. And if you have something, the way that my brain works is if I need to write a document from scratch, it'll take me forever. If you give me something, a script, I can look at it and then I can go and change it.
Yep.
That for me is like hugely helpful. So AI has helped me in that way, is to produce something I can then look at it and go nut.
Amazing.
And tailor it to my way of doing things, and so that has sped things up significantly.
And if I could wave a magic wand and give you an AI engineer for a week, and he could build you a little robot in the background, an AI agent that could do whatever you want, what problem would you solve in your business? What would you have it do? And you can take a bit of time to think about this. What pain would you solve with an AI agent?
Oh, man. It would probably be the things to do with technology where I don't understand it, and so I get frustrated and I'm sort of just like that.
Yeah.
It would be solving those types of things, because I run a online community. I don't want a bot. I don't want to I want to be in there. I want to be talking with people. I want to be replying with Loom videos. I love that stuff. That's what I'm into. I don't want to have anything generating that. I want to be that person. But yeah, like anyone, there's certain stuff in the business. For me, it's like stuff around technology. I'm trying to work something out on the iMac, and it takes me like an hour because I've got to go into a YouTube tutorial. And that, if I just had a little bot to be like, hey man, how do I plug this in, and why is this not working? And
awesome.
You know, like the other day, Loom video, and because I'm using an external camera, my voice is lagging in the audio. Well, I still haven't figured that out.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
So
that's awesome. I love that. Because you love being directly connected to your clients and helping them with their problems in your center of genius, you'd love an AI technology agent that was operating in the background of your computer, troubleshooting and immediately solving all the tech issues you face. We can build that for you. I think we can get that underway. Bro, thanks for joining us on Spill the Tea. That's us. Unless there's anything you want to finish on?
Nah, just good chat and